right, welcome back in here to Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. We're continuing to follow every development in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie as the FBI has contacted law enforcement agencies in Mexico as part of its expanding investigation into that disappearance of the Today Show host Savannah Guthrie's mother, and also more information as the investigation produced potential leads but no breakthroughs, including a glove found 2 miles from the home of Guthrie failed to match DNA samples from the crime scene or produce a hit in the national CODIS database. And we're also hearing from our Fox team more information as they're trying to clear some people of interest. Michael Ruiz, Fox News Digital, talking about polygraph testing is being conducted at Pima County. Fox News, Jonathan Hunt's unclear who is being tested or whether the activity is connected to the suspected abduction of Nancy Guthrie. And the balloon deflated slightly. Matt Finn also reporting this here on Live Now from Fox that the polygraph may not be actually used for any potential suspects or people of interest. They are, in fact, for new hires. So very interesting here on that on Live Now from Fox. Let's bring into the conversation for more. Has been covering it very fully here. We've had him on multiple times. Michael Alcazar, former NYPD detective, John Jay College professor. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And polygraphs may not have been used to talk about the abduction of Nancy Guthrie, but are they instrumental in this investigation nonetheless?
I think most people know that polygraphs are not even really admissible in court. It's not enough to develop PC. I mean, they might use it, like in this case, for new hires. Like if you're interviewing new young recruits, it just makes people nervous. But for the most part, it's really not used in law enforcement today.
All right, that is fair enough. I just wanted to get your opinion, and obviously it may be the reporting coming out, but it's interesting to see that this comes out that they might be using it, and it's just for new hires here. The other big news today is potentially the FBI alerting the Mexican authorities, and they say this comes out today, but they could have started at the beginning. How much cooperation is there between the FBI and Mexican authorities? Because we know Tucson is just about an hour and a half or so from Mexico and the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yeah, I'm confident that Mexican authorities will cooperate. They've done it plenty of times with the FBI, which is it's a good thing, because now I'm not sure, like you said, if they just started today or if they've been doing it all along. I would hope they've been doing it all along because the border is so close. But it will just open up more avenues for investigation, right? They can canvass for more surveillance in the area. They'll have access to like Mexican intelligence, right? Maybe if the cartel is involved, maybe they'll have some tips coming in. So it's just another lead that they can exploit.
And just since we don't know exactly the timeline of it, this is just the reporting that the FBI contacting these Mexican authorities. How much is there initially just a kind of alerting that this is happening because this missing person potentially is out there and there's concern over that? Is it an initial, is it standard protocol to get them alerted right away?
I would think so, because it's so close to the border, right? I'm sure it's pretty much standard procedure, especially in Arizona, because it's right there, especially if you have a missing. I'm pretty sure as soon as they found out it was an abduction, they notified them because, again, you want to get those surveillance, right? The keys to investigation is interviewing witnesses, canvassing for surveillance, getting photographs and videos, and, of course, processing the evidence. And when you're crossing the border, there's cameras all over the place. Now, if they did it earlier without the video that we just saw at the ring door, they don't really know what they're looking for. So now with that ring, that Nest camera, so now they have kind of like an idea of what this individual looks like, and maybe the Mexican authorities can help, with that.
Yeah, and when people kind of cross the border, they can cross-reference that. Michael, we're asking our viewers here on Live Now from Fox what their questions are, because so many people have so many thoughts about this. You can scan that QR code at the top right portion of your screen about all of this, about what's going on in terms of this case. What do you have in terms of this? But we also want to put this up from Brenda from Lake City saying, why does the Pima sheriff believe Nancy has not been taken to Mexico? In terms of just that, the kind of basis of that, because there hasn't been a lot of talk about that. How do they rule that out? How do they look into that?
I'm not sure if they absolutely ruled that out. As we've seen, the sheriff makes a lot of statements that he retracts later. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. I wouldn't eliminate that. Completely, especially because you haven't processed all the evidence, you haven't gathered all the surveillance cameras. So I would not rule that out. And I'm not sure if he actually said that or if that's fact. I mean, them cooperating with the FBI cooperating with the Mexican authorities doesn't necessarily signal that Nancy might have been taken there, but it's a possibility that they absolutely have to investigate.
All right, very good. I just want to get your thoughts on that. So many people talking about it, but it really hasn't been a focus other than that one individual that was detained in Rio Rico, kind of a little bit closer to the border. And since we last spoke, a lot has happened, including that DNA coming back, saying there's no match in CODIS for the DNA found on that glove 2 miles away from Nancy Guthrie's home. What steps do law enforcement take now? We talk about genealogy. How critical could that be?
Yeah, we saw that was a big deal with the Koberger case that helped solve the case there. So, genealogical, that database, it's a little bit, they're going to have to get like search warrants. So it takes a little bit longer. You have to get cooperation from the company, and I hope they do. But even when they get an ID on that, right, they're gonna track it down perhaps to, it might not be the suspect, but it's gonna be a family member, and they're gonna go about that family's relatives and hopefully track somebody down near Arizona, might have a criminal past, criminal history. So just identifying that DNA doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the suspect. You're still going to have to work it, and it's still a long process.
And they're not necessarily looking for a specific individual in this genetic genealogy, like what happened in Brian Koberger. It was just a relative. How do they kind of piece that together, looking at the family tree of someone? Because that sounds complicated.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna, take an expert. Probably that the FBI is gonna, get the help of an expert to help identify, like you said, that family tree to see where it's linked to, how far it spreads, who has passed away, who's still alive, who has an arrest record. It's going to be daunting. Detective work's always like putting puzzle pieces together, and this is just like it's going to be like 1,000 puzzle. It's just going to be very difficult to do.
Yeah, that is so very true. And of course, also since we last spoke, that Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos coming out has cleared Savannah Guthrie, cleared the siblings and the spouses. And it feels odd that we don't have any semblance of where Nancy Guthrie is, and yet they're ruling these people out. Potentially, why would an individual do that? Is that rare in your eyes?
I think the sheriff is concerned that for the safety of the Guthrie family, if they don't have probable cause that they are the suspects, he made that statement. I wouldn't believe it rules them out completely as suspects. They're still on the peripheral of this investigation. Again, if we were conducting this investigation in the NYPD, I don't think we would make a statement like that or rule it out completely because, again, we haven't processed the DNA evidence. We haven't identified any suspects. Right. Maybe, but then again, maybe they have information that we're not privy to. Maybe they have cleared them. Maybe they have enough. Maybe they're on surveillance. I don't know. But maybe they have some information they're working with that clears them that he hasn't shared with us. But I think he's more concerned about the safety of family members, because if they are innocent, we don't want people, using harm on them.
Yeah, that is so very true. And they've said they were very cooperative, but in your eyes, people in this stance might be cooperative in there. Does that kind of line up for you, the fact that family members are cooperative and they get cleared pretty quickly?
Yes, especially if they're innocent. Absolutely. Absolutely. They would cooperate. They let them go into their residence, collect any kind of evidence that they might see, or, just consent to have their home searched, because again, they're not guilty and they want to cooperate. They want to make this investigation go quicker.
Yeah, and we heard Sheriff Chris Nanos. He was having one-on-one interviews, spoke to our Fox 10 team, Justin Lum, about this. And his message, Chris Nanos was speaking to potentially an abductor out there, is just, quote, let her go. Obviously, drop her off at a park or a hospital. Is that a strong enough message from a police officer in this moment, knowing we're at day number 18?
Yeah, it's been a long investigation. I myself think that if this bad guy saw himself on TV, on video, he probably got out of Dodge already. And I hope that Nancy's safe somewhere. And now it's up to law enforcement to track her down, figure out where she's being held.
And Nanos also said that they're continuing to track warm leads, that this case has not gone cold. Are there any indications in your eyes that there are still warm leads? Obviously coming out and say that, but do you believe that there are still warm leads in this case?
I do, because I believe that there's evidence, again, that we don't know about, that they're still processing, that they're working with. If he's saying that, I want to believe that he has a lead that they're working on, and hopefully, they're going to get to a resolution to this long enduring case.
Yeah, that is so very true. Michael, I'm going to give the audience a chance to ask one more question because we're getting these in here in our station. Antonio from Washington, D.C. saying, why doesn't the family offer money for proof of life for their mother? We're seeing the rewards from the FBI and others upwards of $200,000 in terms of reward money. How much of an incentive is it in terms of this money? Do you really see a turnout when the money and the money that is so substantial continue to grow? Is that a real good indicator of getting leads, of generating information?
Well, normally I would say yes, but we see now it's kind of like backfiring because we're not sure if these people offering information are actually legitimate. We saw it. We don't even know if that ransom request was legitimate. But yes, bad guys will, and their family members and friends will be motivated. Once the money is increased, you'd be surprised how people would turn in their brothers, their mothers, their fathers, because they're motivated by getting that reward money.
Yeah, that is so very true. And obviously it continues to rise. Michael Ruiz on social media is saying the FBI, Milwaukee lawyer combining over $300,000. So that is very, very substantial. Michael Alcazar, thank you so much for joining us. Anything else, any more thoughts about this case? Because a lot developed when that FBI surveillance came out and we're kind of slowed down. Any other thoughts right now at this moment?
I think this case has received high scrutiny, again, because of social media and the news coverage. And I know people are getting frustrated, but I'm confident that Pima County and the FBI are doing their best, processing the evidence, gathering surveillance, and hopefully they come to a resolution quickly. And I hope Nancy gets home safe.
Yeah, we do as well. And of course, Chris Nanos is saying he knows he's getting criticized, but they're doing their best to do everything to kind of follow out these leads. Like you mentioned, the complexity of this, a major puzzle that they're trying to fit together. Michael Alcazar, thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thanks, Andy.